Hi, my name is Cerys Turner and I am a reporter for Tes magazine. And I'm going to run you through our readers' questions about the latest Ofsted reforms. So, question one is, what is the rationale behind the latest changes? So, to summarise, single word effectiveness grades have now been scrapped as of last September, and Ofsted is now rolling out new report cards from November. So, these are going to have 6 different areas that Ofsted is going to grade schools on, and these are going to be judged across a 5-point scale. Calls to change became most prominent after the death of head teacher Ruth Perry, who sadly took her own life after an Ofsted inspection in 2023. So since then, Ofsted has introduced a number of different reforms designed to make inspection less top-heavy and more considerate of teacher well-being and the context that schools kind of operate in. So with report cards specifically, Ofsted said it wants to provide more granularity and more nuance to schools' performance. And with Sir Martin Oliver, who is Ofsted's chief inspector, we know he wants quite a big focus on disadvantage and inclusion, hence that shift in focus areas from curriculum in the 2019 inspection framework to inclusion in the latest inspection framework. So for question number 2, given the secure fit approach, what are the implications for schools whose attainment levels are below national average? So for this latest framework, Ofsted is going to be using a secure fit approach to grading. So this basically means that to receive an expected standard or above, a school will have to meet every one of the grade descriptors. So you can find these all detailed in the toolkits that Ofsted has produced. There are naturally some concerns about how this is going to kind of impact attainment. Obviously, there can be kind of numerous different reasons that a school might not necessarily reach the kind of national grades and be in line with the national average. So there is a concern that that means those schools who fall into that category will get marked down on attainment. We don't actually know what broadly in line means yet. We don't know where inspectors will draw the line. So that's still one to be clarified by Ofsted and hopefully will be done before inspections roll up properly in November. The next question is, how is Ofsted going to require schools to evidence inclusion? So inclusion is one of the 6 main evaluation areas that schools will receive a grade on. So when you have an inspector coming in, Ofsted is going to be looking for schools to have very high expectations for pupils with special educational needs and disabilities. I'll say SEND just for this video. Also pupils who are maybe coming from socioeconomic disadvantaged backgrounds, pupils who have been in social care or known to social care in the past, or just generally face any barriers to their learning and well-being. So Ofsted will be assessing whether these schools are kind of getting that early and accurate assessment of those people's needs, and then how schools are going to use this information to kind of create a cycle of planning, action and review to reduce any of those barriers. But it's important to note that Ofsted won't be looking at intake of pupils with SEND or from disadvantaged backgrounds. So question 4 is, how do you think the new framework will work in special schools? So Ofsted will be using the same framework, evaluation and toolkits for all school settings, including special schools, but they are going to kind of consider what setting they're visiting when they're coming in and when they're looking for evidence too. So for example, with special schools, when an inspector evaluates curriculum and teaching for pupils with SEND, they will be looking at whether those pupils have access to a suitable curriculum and one that is adapted to their needs. We have spoken to special school heads who have some concern that this new inspection framework is essentially applying a mainstream school lens to special schools. So do get in touch with us if you have had a test or pilot inspection at a special school and you want to give us some feedback on how it went. So next question is, some schools have higher proportions of vulnerable young people than others. How will Ofsted ensure it's a level playing field? The toolkits are pretty heavy on considering a school's context, and this kind of comes up under most of the evaluation areas. But as it goes with most of Ofsted's new framework, we will have to see what it's like on the ground for those first schools that have been inspected. Do we know what the increased focus on looked after children and those involved with social care will look like? So, as part of Ofsted's inspection of a school's safeguarding, Ofsted will check whether schools have a designated teacher for children who are looked after or were previously looked after. So, they'll be looking how qualified that teacher is, how experienced that teacher is, and whether each looked after children has an educational healthcare plan and receives that high quality support that they mentioned. In its evidence of inclusion, Ofsted will also be looking at how well schools are serving pupils who have been known to social care or are currently in social care. So, following question is, why is safeguarding getting a binary judgment and how is it going to be inspected? So, Ofsted will now inspect safeguarding as either met or not met. So, essentially, it's using that binary judgment because as it said earlier this year, either a school is doing safeguarding well, it's having safeguarding embedded in all areas of its culture, or it's not. So it's pretty black and white in this new inspection framework on how well a school is doing on safeguarding. But it's important to note Ofsted have already introduced a change that essentially means if a school has some minor issues with safeguarding, it'll give the school about 3 months to try and fix those issues, and then it will return and re-inspect. How will the inspection process work for small schools? So these are schools that are 50 pupils or under. So Ofsted has said that it will train its inspectors to evaluate different types of settings and make sure to apply the toolkit appropriately when it goes into those different schools. So this will also include small schools. The toolkits do only reference quite a few numbers of times for small schools. So, for instance, it says that leaders may share curriculum resources and may adapt their curriculum for mixed classes. And it says that inspectors will be kind of looking for that when they visit a small school. It will also evaluate achievement in small schools, and they will consider that results data for those smaller cohorts is likely to fluctuate, and that staff in smaller schools are likely to have multiple responsibilities. And finally, what is the rationale for some of the combined categories? So Ofsted originally announced plans to inspect schools across 8 different areas using the same 5-point scale. However, when it went out to consultation, it got quite a lot of feedback from people working in schools that this was too complicated. And so that's why it's cut it down to 6 evaluation areas. So they combined curriculum and teaching, which previously sat together under the last Ofsted framework. And it also grouped together attendance and behaviour. Now, this aligns with the DV's kind of wider approach to attendance and behaviour. As you may know, they have attendance and behaviour hubs, and they have attendance and behaviour ambassadors. So it makes sense for Ofsted to group these two together as well. If you have any more questions or just want to give us some feedback on how test or pilot inspections have been working for you, please do get in touch over at TES. You can find our emails on our website as well as our Twitter and Blue Sky. So please do drop us a DM as well. Thanks.